Disclaimer: this story explores mature emotional themes involving boundaries, misunderstandings, and complex family dynamics. It contains no explicit material. Viewer discretion is advised. It happened on a Sunday, quiet, ordinary, the kind of day where nothing's supposed to go wrong. My name's Julia. I'm 34, married for 2 years now to a man with a son from his previous marriage. His name is Ethan. He's 22, grown, respectful, usually keeps to himself. But what happened that morning changed the rhythm of our household in a way I still haven't fully processed. I'd just gotten out of bed, hair tied in a lazy bun, wrapped in my robe, heading to the bathroom for my usual routine. The door clicked behind me, or at least I thought it did. I was brushing my teeth, still half asleep, when I heard the door creak. At first, I assumed it was my husband. He does that sometimes, walks in without knocking. But when I turned around, it was Ethan. He froze. So did I. For a second, we both just stood there. My robe was still closed, but it was obvious I was in the middle of my private moment. His face went pale, then red. "Sorry. I thought no one was in here," he blurted out, backing out faster than he'd come in. The door shut again. Silence. Then the awkward realization settled in. I don't know what got to me more, his embarrassment or my own. It wasn't just that he walked in. It was the look on his face. Shocked, but also something else. A flicker I couldn't place. That tiny shift in energy, like we both felt something we weren't supposed to. I shook the thought off, finished brushing, and tried to tell myself it was no big deal. But later that morning, at breakfast, he couldn't look me in the eye. And I couldn't stop thinking about it. When my husband, Derek, walked into the kitchen, coffee mug in hand, he didn't notice a thing. He never does. He trusts both of us, probably too much. Ethan sat quietly at the table, scrolling through his phone, but I could feel his attention drift toward me every now and then. Quick, quiet glances when he thought I wasn't looking. Maybe it was all innocent. Maybe it meant nothing. But in a house where lines are supposed to be clear, one unintentional moment had blurred them. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of it. Because that night, after everyone went to bed, I heard footsteps outside my bedroom door. They stopped. Waited. And then walked away. That sound outside my door wasn't just footsteps, it was hesitation. Whoever it was paused long enough for my pulse to spike. I didn't move. I just lay there, listening, heart tight in my chest. Then the steps slowly retreated down the hallway. No knock. No voice. Just presence. And silence. The next morning, I played it off. Maybe it was Derek getting water. Maybe I imagined it. But when I brought it up casually, "Did you get up last night?" He shook his head. "Out cold," he said with a laugh, already sipping his coffee and reading the news. Ethan had just walked in behind him, hair tousled, still groggy. Our eyes met for half a second. Long enough to know neither of us had forgotten yesterday. Ethan wasn't just Derek's son. He had moved in after college when his internship fell through. Just for a few months, he said. That was 10 months ago. He was respectful, quiet, stayed out of our marriage. But in the past few weeks, things had shifted. A few too many lingering glances. A few too many shared silences that said more than words. I never wanted to see it that way. But the bathroom moment broke something open. Not a door. A boundary. That afternoon, I sat alone in the backyard, pretending to scroll through my phone while my mind wandered. I kept thinking back to when I first met Ethan. He was distant then, almost cold. Protective of his dad, skeptical of me. I didn't blame him. A young stepmom is a hard pill to swallow, especially when she's not trying to be a replacement, just part of the picture. But somewhere along the way, he softened. We started talking more. About life. His career. His mother. I became the person he confided in ways he probably never meant to. And maybe that was the problem. We got too comfortable. Inside, I could hear him moving around, the quiet thump of footsteps in the hallway above me. Part of me wanted to go inside and talk to him, to clear the air, to fix what got broken, but I didn't know how. How do you talk about something you're not even sure happened? A moment that felt like nothing but might have meant something? Later that night, Derek went to bed early. I stayed up, reading on the couch, trying to calm my nerves. Around midnight, I heard the fridge open in the kitchen. I waited. A few seconds later, Ethan stepped into the living room holding a bottle of water. He stopped when he saw me, like he wasn't expecting anyone there. I didn't mean to wake you, he said softly. You didn't, I replied. Couldn't sleep. He nodded, lingering near the edge of the room. About yesterday, he started. I looked up at him, heart thudding. Yeah? He looked down, then back at me. It really was an accident. I know, I said. But I didn't know what to say after that. And neither did he. He lingered there, like there was more. Something else he wasn't saying. Then he turned and walked back toward the stairs. Just before he disappeared from view, he paused and looked back. Good night, he said. But there was weight in his voice. Not guilt. Something else. Something more dangerous. Good night, I replied, too softly. As he walked away, I realized the real problem wasn't the bathroom door. It was the ones we had left open between us, quiet, invisible, and now impossible to close. I told myself the tension would fade. That a few days of space would fix whatever had shifted between us. But it didn't fade. It settled into the walls, quiet, electric. Even Derek began to notice. You and Ethan aren't talking much lately, he said one evening while we folded laundry. Did something happen? I gave the easiest answer. He's just stressed. Looking for work again. Derek nodded, satisfied. But I wasn't. Ethan started avoiding me more deliberately, no shared breakfasts, no casual chats in the kitchen. He came and went like a ghost. But then, just as I started to convince myself that maybe it really was all in my head, something changed again. One evening, I heard him arguing on the phone. I wasn't eavesdropping. The door was cracked. I was walking past his room when I heard, "No," I said, "I'm not going back there. I don't care what she thinks, this is my home now." A pause. Yeah, even with her here. He didn't say my name, but I didn't have to hear it to know. Later that night, he walked into the kitchen while I was doing dishes. I didn't look at him. But I felt him there, watching. You heard that call, didn't you? He asked. I kept my eyes on the sink. I didn't mean to. She wants me back in Seattle. My mom. His voice had a sharpness to it, like he was daring me to say something. But I told her no. I like it here. I turned to face him. Ethan, this house is complicated enough. He stepped closer. You think I don't know that? We stood there, no words left, just the thud of the faucet dripping between us. But it wasn't just about us anymore. Derek got a promotion offer, a job in Boston. "It's a big opportunity," he said one morning, excited. "But we'd need to move. Whole family." Ethan heard, but didn't say much. I saw it in his face though, he wasn't going. I knew him well enough now to recognize when he was quietly digging in. That same night, I found an old photo tucked behind the bookshelf, Ethan and his mom, smiling on a beach somewhere. I don't know why it hit me so hard. Maybe because I realized I didn't really know their history. Maybe because I saw the boy in him, and not the man who kept walking toward a line neither of us should cross. The pressure built in whispers. From his room, from mine. From Derek, blissfully unaware. From the way Ethan lingered in doorways, like there was still something left to say. Like we were waiting for a moment that might never come. One night, Derek and I had dinner with friends. Ethan stayed home. I came back early, headache. The house was quiet. Dark. I walked upstairs, set my bag down, and opened the bedroom door. Ethan was standing there. He looked startled, like he'd been waiting. Or like he thought he had time to leave before I returned. "I didn't hear you come in," he said, voice low. "I wasn't supposed to be home yet," I replied, heart thudding again. We just stood there in the quiet hum of our bad timing. He looked at me then, not with guilt, not with fear. With something heavier. "You know this can't keep going," he said. But we both knew, it already had. I didn't ask why he was in our bedroom. I didn't need to. The question hung between us, thick and electric, but unspoken. Ethan didn't move. Neither did I. "What are you doing here?" I asked finally, my voice steady but quiet. He looked down, then back at me. I wanted to see if it felt different. "This space. Yours. His." A beat passed. "Ours." "Don't say that," I said too quickly. "Why?" he asked. "Because it's wrong? Or because it's true?" I stepped inside and closed the door behind me, not because I wanted privacy, but because I didn't want this conversation bleeding into the hallway where Derek's presence still lingered. I could still smell his cologne on the comforter. His voice echoed faintly in my mind, trusting, warm, naive. "I'm married to your father," I said. "That's the only truth that matters. But that's not the only truth we live in." Ethan's voice cracked slightly, and it hit harder than I wanted to admit. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't plan it. I don't know how to stop feeling it." I wanted to be angry. To yell, to accuse him of disrespecting boundaries. But I couldn't. Because I'd been feeling it too, and lying to myself about it for weeks. Months, maybe. I crossed the room slowly, stopping near the dresser, not looking directly at him. "You're not a kid anymore, Ethan. You know how this ends." "Do I?" he said, stepping closer. "Because every time I try to create space, you look at me like you want me to stay." That hit a nerve. I turned toward him sharply. "Don't twist this into something I wanted. You walked into my bathroom. You stood outside my door at night. You stepped over every line, and I let you because I thought we could be adults about it. I thought I could handle it. Then why are you shaking right now?" He was right. My hands were trembling, fingers curled into themselves. Not from fear. From something far more dangerous. Just then, the sound of Derek's car pulling into the driveway cut through the air like a blade. We froze. Time snapped back into place. 'I stepped away. You need to leave.' Now. He didn't move. Ethan, go. He hesitated for a fraction of a second longer, like he might say something else. Then he turned and walked out without another word. I rushed to the mirror, wiped my face, straightened the bed. Every move felt like a cover-up. Every breath, a lie. Derek walked in a minute later, smiling, keys in hand. Everything okay? Yeah, I lied, forcing a smile. Just tired. But I could feel Ethan's presence still lingering in the air, like the storm had passed but the sky hadn't cleared. Later that night, I found a note on the kitchen counter. Folded neatly. No name on the outside. Inside, it said only one thing: if I leave, will that make it easier for you to pretend this never happened? I stood there in the kitchen, lights off, the glow of the fridge the only thing illuminating the paper in my hands. I didn't know the answer. And I wasn't sure which part scared me more, if he stayed or if he left. I didn't respond to the note. I didn't throw it away either. I tucked it into the back of a drawer, as if hiding it would hide the truth that had already happened. 2 days passed. Ethan stayed in his room mostly. Quiet. Distant. But present. That tension, the unbearable kind, wrapped itself around every hallway, every glance. And Derek still didn't know. Until one morning, he did. It started with a text. Derek called me while I was out running errands. Hey, he said, his voice low, strained. We need to talk when you get home. I asked what was wrong. He said nothing more. Just that one sentence. We need to talk. I barely made it through the drive back. My heart sat in my throat the whole way, bracing for the worst. I thought he knew. About Ethan. About me. About the space we let open too long. When I walked in, Derek was at the dining table, phone in hand, eyes dark. He held up the device. Did you know about this? I took it and stared at the screen. It was an email. From Ethan's mother. Subject line, concern about Julia. Inside were a few lines that shattered everything I thought I knew. I know this may be hard to hear, but I think you need to know what your wife is hiding. Ask her why Ethan refused to come home. Ask her about the conversations they've had behind your back. He told me everything, and he's scared. Scared of what she might do if he leaves. I couldn't breathe. She sent this last night, Derek said. I called Ethan into the room this morning. He didn't deny it. I blinked. Didn't deny what? That you manipulated him. My voice caught. What? He said you blurred the lines, Derek continued, each word colder than the last. That you were the one who kept pulling him in. That he didn't know how to stop it. No, I whispered. That's not what happened. Derek leaned in. Then tell me what did. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Because Ethan had flipped the story. I replayed every conversation in my head. Every look. Every silence. He never said he loved me. He never said anything that would tie him to it. And now, with the spotlight on him, he twisted the narrative to save himself. To go back to his mother's house. To leave clean. I stood frozen in the doorway as Derek got up and walked past me, each step heavy with the kind of disappointment that doesn't raise its voice, but cuts deeper because of it. I believed in you, he said. And then he was gone. I turned slowly, staring at the phone still glowing in my hand. Ethan hadn't just walked into the bathroom that day. He had walked into my life with a quiet plan. And now, he was walking out, leaving me behind to take the fall. I didn't sleep that night. The house was quiet, but not peaceful. The kind of silence that hums in your bones, heavy with everything left unsaid. Derek had gone to stay at a hotel. He left no note, no time frame. Just space. I sat on the couch for hours, replaying every moment, every choice. Wondering when exactly I lost control of the story. Or if I ever had it to begin with. Ethan didn't come out of his room. Not until morning. When he did, he found me still on the couch, eyes red, breath shallow. He didn't look surprised. Just tired. Maybe even relieved. "You got what you wanted," I said, my voice barely a whisper. He stood across from me, hands in the pockets of his jacket. "I didn't want this." "No?" I let out a small laugh. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you walked into this house, lit a match, and waited for the spark." He looked down, jaw tight. "I never meant for it to go this far." "But you let it," I snapped. "You let me be the one who'd take the fall. You let your father think I had to," he said sharply, eyes finally locking onto mine. "You don't know what it's like living in the shadow of someone who's always perfect. He trusts everyone but never really sees anyone." I needed to matter. I blinked. "So you burned down your family to matter?" He stepped closer, his voice low and fast. "You looked at me like I was someone. Not just Derek's son. You listened. You saw me. And you used that," I said. "You turned it into something else and then blamed me for letting it happen." The words hung in the space between us. Neither of us innocent. Both of us broken. "I'm leaving," he said after a long pause. "My mom's flying in tomorrow." "Good," I said, though it didn't feel good. It felt like hollow justice. He turned to leave but stopped at the door. "He'll come back. Derek. He just needs time." "I don't know if I want him to," I replied, quietly. Ethan's face changed, just slightly. A flicker of something I couldn't name. Regret, maybe. Or the sudden realization that he hadn't just hurt his father. He'd broken something in me, too. He left without another word. I stayed in that house for 2 more days. Alone. Then, one evening, I heard the front door open. I didn't get up. I didn't move. Derek stood there in the hallway, suitcase in hand. He looked exhausted, like he'd aged a year in a week. "I read your journal," he said softly. My heart stopped. "What?" "You left it in the drawer." "I don't think you meant to." "But I read it." I couldn't speak. "I saw what you wrote the day he walked into the bathroom," he said. "How confused you felt. How scared you were. And how hard you tried not to let it show." Tears welled in my eyes. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know," he said. "I just wish you'd told me when it started. Before it got so far." We stood there in that broken space, hearts open but bruised. "I'm not ready to come back," he said gently. "But I needed you to know, I believe you. I believe the part that still tried to protect him, even after he turned on you." I nodded, barely holding myself together. He turned to leave, then stopped. "And Julia." "Yeah?" "Next time you feel like you're disappearing, don't wait for someone to notice. Tell me." The door closed behind him. That night, I slept for the first time in a week. Not because things were fixed. But because the lie was gone. The house was finally quiet, for real this time. But just before dawn, a new message arrived on my phone. No number. No name. Just 4 words, "You think it's over?" In the weeks that followed, life quieted down, but it didn't return to what it was. Ethan moved back to Seattle with his mother. We didn't speak again, and maybe that was for the best. Some wounds aren't meant to be reopened. Derek and I took time apart, not out of anger, but to rediscover who we were without the noise between us. That time apart ended up saving us. Because we learned to stop assuming, to start asking, and to stop waiting until things broke before we spoke. Eventually, he came home, not with roses or promises, but with a quiet understanding. We started over, not as a couple chasing perfection, but as 2 people finally willing to face the mess, together. The truth? Boundaries matter. So does honesty. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing isn't crossing a line, it's ignoring one until it disappears. We didn't choose the chaos, but we chose how to come back from it. That's what made the difference. And that message I got? "You think it's over?" It turned out to be from an unknown number, just spam. But maybe it was the universe, testing me one last time. I smiled and deleted it. Because yes, it was over. And I was ready to start again, with eyes wide open. Woman raising hand, did you enjoy the story? Speech balloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we read every one.